Hey, what's going on, guys? I am Master RKO, and today I'm bringing it back. If you're in the position that I am right now, I'm sure you're waiting. You've been playing a whole bunch of multiplayer, you're leveling up, you're getting your prestiges going, and you're waiting for League play. Now, when we were back in World War II, ranked play was in full force, and there was a lot of things that were very similar for the game, but at the same point, things have definitely changed since then. So what I've decided to do is revamp that same tutorial series, I guess, starting from scratch. And hopefully by the time League play gets around, everyone who's watching will have a little bit more information going in. Instead of starting within the thick of things and having everything be scrambled and a mess of information and just trying to apply it while everyone's already in full swing, maybe now you'll get some practice in. So we're going to go ahead and kick it back. Back to a fan favorite, and a map where I think going through some of the basics would definitely help us out. We're kicking it back to firing range.
I will not fail.
Now, for those who are wondering, yes, the game has changed a bit. There are a few new things that we're going to go over, and we may even go into more detail over time, but for right now we're going to go over the quick basics and just get you into the game. Find out what modes you need to practice, find out what guns you need to be using, and hopefully by the end, you'll be ready. So let's go ahead and get into this.
Team deathmatch.
Welcome
Black Ops, go to work.
to Black Ops 4. The game is vibrant, the game is new, it's somewhat fast-paced, and there's a whole bunch of new features and things that you can get into, but we'll start back to basics with some of the guns and stuff. First of all, just look at this map. They've really outdone themselves, and you know, we've always been very happy with Treyarch's work and the way that they do things, but this map in general, even on a map like this and a game like this, it seems kind of small, just the way things play and how fast they are. So what are a couple things you'll really need to get working on before League play starts? Well, obviously, you're going to need to know what guns to use, and there's a lot of them. But there's still kind of a small grouping of them that people have been using recently. One of them is the one that I have in my hand. It's known as the SOG 9mm. It's a submachine gun, and you get it at the later levels, but you know, League plays League play. You'll probably have it already unlocked. There's a few other guns that we'll go over in another video, but for right now, a few of them that you're going to be initially looking at. As we go into some of the custom classes here, you'll start out with a few. You'll start out with the Cordite, which kind of feels like the PDW from the original Black Ops 2. You have the ICR, which is very much like the one that you'd used in Black Ops 3, but it shoots a little more steady like the ACR from the the Modern Warfare games. You got the KN, which is exactly what it sounds like. It shoots exactly like the one from Black Ops 3. The Swordfish, which is kind of like the new version of the M8. The Koshka here, which is kind of your more well-trained sniper rifle, and then no one really uses the Mozu very much. So when you're first starting into the game, these are a couple of things that you'll get. I recommend starting off using the ICR. That's going to be your bread and butter. It's going to be what you're going to be training with for at least the first few levels, if not to the point where League play finally comes out. Once you start getting used to that a little bit, you'll eventually get to your levels. You'll get to a few other guns that we'll go over, but until then, that's going to be one that you'll want to look at. The second thing you may notice that's a little weird is in the bottom middle of my screen you see a few things. The one on the left is a healing thing, and as you can see on the bottom left hand of my screen, you see health. That's right, you can actually see how much health you have now, and that's going to come into a big that's going to play a big role when you're playing, especially league play, but a few other things. Now, when you take damage, that left bumper you can hit, or L1 if you're playing on PlayStation, it can heal you, and you get that throughout the game, and it can definitely help you. But choosing when and where to use it is going to be the biggest issue that you'll probably have when using the health system. Do you jump around and challenge somebody if they're low health too, or do you back off and heal up and try to re-engage somewhere else? On the right hand side of that little UI system down there, you see what looks to be some sort of like weird thing. No one's really too sure what they are at first. Those are what I call the secondary abilities. In Black Ops 3, the specialists had their specialist abilities, or ultimates, or whatever you wanted to call them. Now they all have another ability, similar to the game Overwatch, where they have certain abilities that you can use throughout the match that you don't really need to charge up, and they're there pretty much most of the game for you to utilize. Certain characters have certain ones, and we can definitely go over those as well. This one here is Seraph. Now you probably remember Seraph from Black Ops 3, from this little thing
Watch
here,
me work.
the Annihilator. Well, amongst the gunslinging that she does, she also has what most people are just calling the tac spawn. What this does is you place this little thing down here,
online.
and much like you would think, it lets you spawn in that position. This can be utilized in objective-based game types to flank around a group of enemies waiting, set up a spawn point for your own team to get the advantage, or even throw it in the middle of somewhere and catch people off guard.
Your TAC deploy beacon is offline.
Now, in this video, of course, they're going to come back a little sooner. These are just examples, but every character you play has one. And just like the secondary abilities, each character has their ultimates as well. So, picking which ones to use to correlate with certain other players can be definitely useful, especially as the game improves, things get nerfed and buffed, and league play eventually comes into play where you're possibly picking and banning things. We're not sure on how that's going to go or what rule sets we're going to be playing on. So we got the health down. We've got the abilities down. There's going to be a few maps, but we're not too sure on how which maps are going to be chosen or what game types. But there's still one kind of weird anomaly that's with this game that people are still trying to figure out, but the pros are going to get down faster than anybody, and that is the recoil patterns. Now, if you've ever played a game like Counter-Strike, you know what these are. Every gun shoots in the same way, and controlling that recoil is going to be what's going to change the difference between you getting 2 or 3 hits on somebody and then walking away with a couple health left, or finishing them off over a head glitch and feeling like you've accomplished something. Each gun shoots in the same way no matter where you're at or how you're doing them. For instance, if I aim here, without moving the right stick at all, just pushing the right trigger, you see that it has a pattern. Now, certain attachments are going to affect those. Obviously, I have a silencer and a grip on this, so it's not going to be as bad. But you can see, as we shoot again, it goes up a little bit immediately to the left, and then it kind of rotates back and forth. So, if you can manage to control that, you can now see that you can maintain a much better spray pattern and get those oh so pesky enemies off of those head glitches that in the past you might have a little more randomness to where you're shooting. Now it's all controlled by you, which is always a good thing, I guess, if you have more control in your hands. Now, we don't know really too much about what we're going to be getting into with League play or what the ranking system is, and that we can get into later, but there is a few steps that you can take before you get into jumping into the arena with the big boys. The first thing you need to do, of course, is find out which guns fit your style. Right now, submachine guns aren't too crazy. There are a few that work, but in time, especially when League Play comes out, there might be a patch or two. So, there may be more than just certain guns that work. So, with that being said, are you a fast-paced, rushing submachine gun? Will you be using those more often? Or are you an AR that likes to sit back and hold off a spawn and pick people off at a range? Each of those things vary depending on predictive recoil, figuring out which attachments and which specialists you're going to use. They all intertwine with one another, and playstyles can get, very much mishmashed if you're not understanding the way certain things play. Seraph here, she's going to be a flanker. You have her Annihilator to clear close quarters areas and even far away if you need to. You have her Spawn Beacon to flank around somewhere and get your team back there, or get a good spawn for the next hard point. Flank a domination spot, or even in TDM, just flip the spawns in your favor. She's not going to be one to play back in the back and sit and collect the spawn with a certain AR or sniper rifle. Though she's not going to play too much of a submachine gun player either, up in your grill. There's a certain gun that I use called the Vapor, and it's kind of a mix in between an AR and a submachine gun, and it does very well for me so far. But we know, with especially the first update coming, anything can happen. So, getting a few things in your playstyle just kind of organized can definitely help as the patches come. So once you find your weapons and some specialists that you like, maybe whether it's just the way they look or the abilities they have, the next thing to do, of course, is just going to be practicing. Getting your aim down, figuring out what sensitivities to use, getting certain settings down. And if you could see, if we actually go into our control settings, there are a few different assists and stuff that you can use. Of course, as I mentioned way back in the World War II videos, there's a few different ones, but finding your sensitivity is definitely going to be a thing you need to work on. You're going to start off with 4-4. That's just going to be medium. A lot of people right now are playing on 5-5, just because 4-4 can sometimes seem sluggish to certain people. Being able to aim in one spot, snap on their target, it can be a little bit slower. But for some people, they need that extra bit. They need that extra stability at longer ranges. And some people, even 5-5 is too sluggish. Finding that sensitivity and making sure that you're going to be able to shoot in the correct direction and not spin around in circles, but also not turn at all, is going to be one thing you're definitely going to be wanting to be searching for when you're looking to get into League play, because chances are the people you're going against are going to have theirs dialed down, especially by the time the League play actually gets released. As you look into some of the other settings, of course sensitivity's there. Assists, you're probably not going to worry about changing. Controller vibration. Some people can play with them, some people can't. I personally don't like playing with vibration. It shakes my controller around, it makes my stability kind of awful, I guess. I personally just don't like it. Some people like the vibrations, they like feeling the gun and the way it bounces, it helps them aim. So, to each their own. Stick layouts, most of the time you're never going to change those. Some people do. Button layouts. This is another one. A lot of people will leave this alone. I personally play on what's called tactical. All it does is switches your melee and your crouch buttons, mainly because I play on a scuff controller. And what that does is it just gives me a extra paddle on the back of my controller to use that as a melee instead of trying to hit the B button, and it stops me from panic knifing all the time. Back in the day when it was still panic knifing. Now it's even worse because it's a 2-hit kill to melee. So That's something I just was tired of doing. I accidentally clicked the button down, and instead of drop shotting, I would knife, and then I'm dead. So some people play on tactical, some people play on default, some people go through all of these, and you can go through these settings in your own time and figure out what really suits you. And then, of course, now they have the option where you can swap your bumpers and your triggers, which can be interesting, I guess. I never really thought about doing it, but hey, to each their own. With some of these settings, you can get certain things laid out and have them fit your own playstyle, so that way when you're fighting for your own rank, you're not misclicking, button mashing, or just misfiring. You can also go into the graphics here and adjust your brightnesses and colorblind stuff, what names are coming up, your audio settings as well, and of course, getting the right equipment too is always going to be a thing. You're not going to want to have stuff that's going to break on you, stuff that's not working too well, and of course everyone's on a budget. You can't really get the best equipment at the same time as, some other people, so work up to it, get the things that you need, and make what you have work. Everyone does. But one thing that you definitely want to do, especially in these sound settings, especially if you have a headset, especially one not like the ones that you get with like the Xbox when they first come out that only has one. For that, this isn't really going to matter too much. But if you have a set of Astros, Turtle Beaches, or Hypers, or any of them that are kind of like that, you want to make sure that your audio settings are on headphones. Some people will play on Super Crunch, High Boost, Bass Boost. All those are good and they sound great, but they're not really going to give you too much directional tell. And that's really what you're going to be looking forward to in League play specifically. Now, if you're playing with friends, you're just goofing off, you might be playing Blackout or Zombies, put that thing on Super Crunch and jam out. But when you're playing League play and your rank is on the line, you're going to want to be able to hear where people are and where they're shooting from. Subtitles aren't going to really matter too much, and you can always play test, and for those of you who have not heard that, it's always a really cool sound. Go ahead and do that on your own. I have my sound way up, and I'm not going to blast my ears off. With that being said, I think there's only a few other things that I can go through with the intro so far. Making sure your network settings are good, that's always fine. Those are your audio, this is all your control stuff, and here's all your specialists here, which you can always go through, and we can always, actually, you know what, we've got a few minutes left. We'll go ahead and run through those real quick. So, with Ajax, he's got a ballistic shield. He's got a built-in machine pistol you can use, and his secondary ability is a 9-bang flash grenade that you can charge up to 3 levels, 3, 6, and 9. He's pretty good as a tank. He can also lead you into some gunfights. Battery's the one from Black Ops 3. She's got her war machine, except now she's got a cluster grenade that you can toss. Sticks to surfaces and then shoots out a few mini grenades that splash everywhere. Crash, he's got a heal as his ultimate that heals everybody on the team and can boost their health from 150 to 200. And it can remove burns and other status effects. We'll get into those there in a second. And he's got an assault pack, and the assault pack gives you ammo and it gives you extra score, kind of like Seraph's combat focus from Black Ops 3. Firebreak, of course, has his purifier. That's pretty much self-explanatory. He's got a flamethrower. It kills people. His secondary ability is a reactor core, and basically what it does is you plant it on the ground and it emits this toxic radiation everywhere around him, and once it gets so high, you start hurting yourself and you have to stop, but it basically is a big AoE around him and you can ward off people from certain areas. Nomad has his canine unit and a mesh mine, so the canine is just a dog that runs around and kills things. His secondary ability, mesh mines, those you shoot on different surfaces, and when you hit one and they're close enough, they'll basically link and create like a tripwire. Prophet has his Tempest, except instead of being like the shock thing, now it's like a sniper rifle. And it is a 2-hit kill now. He has a seeker mine that he throws down, it rolls around and shocks people and stuns them. Recon is not the bow girl from the last game, which is kind of depressing to me because she was always the one that I used. He still got his vision pulse though, and now he has a sensor dart. You basically shoot it somewhere, a map where people can see. Ruin's got his grab slam from the last game. It's just a little bit differently. It's got like a different. He's got a different way of doing it, I guess, and he's got a grapple gun that you fire at a wall and it springs you to people. If you played Advanced Warfare at the end, you know what that is. You just saw Seraph's, and Torque has a little barricade that he slams down, and it's kind of like a Guardian mixed with a barricade. And he's got razor wire that you throw down, kind of like very Rainbow Sixy. You can block off an area. So those are those people. That's all the people that you got. There is a specialist headquarters at the very beginning of the menu that you can look at, and that will pretty much run you through who they are, what they can do. I won't spoil anything. If you guys want to go and check that out, you can. It's pretty interesting. There's a small story with it, so it's not all just running through tutorials. The only other thing that I want to go over super quick while we got time is if you look at my mini-map, top left-hand corner, you will notice that instead of having the whole minimap lit up like we used to, there's actually a cone in front of where I'm at and a little bit around me.
MTC is dry. Give it all you got.
What that is that is actually the fog of war. You can no longer just see around the map where everybody is, and even when people shoot, you can't see their dots. You can only see what is in your vision. Same for your teammates. You can only see what's in front of them. So when you're playing League Play and you're getting ready to start getting into that sort of thing, keep that in mind when you're picking out your playstyles, because you won't be able to just look at the minimap and see where people are anymore. But as the time ticks down in the map, that time ticks down also in this video, so hopefully this little bit of a beginner video helps you guys out. This will be a starter video for anybody who's hoping to get into the game, and we'll be making a few more as we're waiting for League Play to get here. So, for everybody who's on the grind with me, waiting for League Play to come out and just anxious to play, I'll see you guys in the next video. Adios.